sort of the emotional bank account concept, which I talk about in the PDFs if you guys read those. But essentially, to break down the emotional bank account, understanding is that every email you send is either a deposit or a withdrawal in somebody's emotional bank account, or it's neutral, right? So if you think about it as literally a bank where you either go to that bank and you withdraw money, or you go to that bank and you put money in, every time you send an email that's just a pure HUD sales email, that's probably some form of withdrawal from their emotional bank account. Now, for some people, it's a deposit because they wanted to buy the thing and they're stoked that you told them. That's why, and I didn't do it with this morning's email, but you'll see in emails that I write when I'm closing out a sale, I'll put in some sort of jokes and make some sort of little fun thing so that I go, hey, or I'll just call it out. Hey, I know this email had absolutely no value unless you bought the thing I was selling, because there's obviously huge value in that. But anyway, tomorrow I'll go back to my regularly scheduled emails. And that's why essentially, let's say your Sunday is your big promo day to close out some sort of sale or promo, right? Monday, I want to make a deposit, right? If I've been making withdrawals over the course of a weekend, like this weekend where I sent, 3 or 5 emails, and I don't send everything to everyone. And I'll just give you guys this as a sort of really basic way of understanding how I manage my list. 90-day engages are who I send my regular emails to. And this is super advanced. Most of you don't have to worry about this. I'm just going to give the quickest synopsis of this possible. 90-day engages, anybody who's open in the last 90 days, that's what I consider my active email list. All right. Then let's say on Saturday afternoon, when I was going to send a second email, I just sent that to my 30-day engages, because I don't want to send that to everybody, because if they haven't opened in 90 days, but they have opened in 30, maybe they're interested. On Sunday, and I didn't do this for this one, but I normally do, if I'm sending a third email, I'm just sending this to people who opened in the last 7 days. Because if they haven't opened in the last 7 days and then they're suddenly just going to buy, they might not. Now, for this offer, I thought it was a very good offer and it was relevant to the list. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to send it to the 30-day engages. But in certain cases, I will only send. So let's say my first email Sunday, let's say I send 3 on Sunday. On Sunday morning, I'm going to send to 90-day engages. Or I may mix this up, but I may send 30-day in the morning. In the afternoon, I'm going to send to my 30-day engages. And that final email, that's going to the 7-day engages. Now, I may flip that around because there are people who don't know something's ending. And when they see in the subject line, ends in 1 hour, starts in 1 hour, ending tonight, they go, oh, this is relevant. Let me open this real quick. So that's kind of my general, simple way of managing my list. And then once every week or two, I will send sometimes to everybody who's ever opened on my list, which is over double the size of my active list. And then basically anybody who opens becomes now an opener in the rest of my list. So I may have 1,000 people who haven't opened in 90 days who open again, and now I've just added 1,000 people to my list. If I pay $5 a lead for people to get on my list, I've just gotten $5,000 worth of people back onto my list. Okay? So, and that's just deliverability stuff. For a lot of people, you don't have to go that in depth to think about it too much, but you don't want to just be sending to everybody ever who's ever joined your list who's just not opening, because that's not going to work well in the long term for the relationship and reputation of your list. Cool. So that's the emotional bank account. Essentially is keeping, and it's, you can actually keep a spreadsheet of this where you basically, every email you write, you put whether it was a deposit or a withdrawal, and just put a positive if it was a deposit and a negative if it was a withdrawal. And you can kind of keep track of what you feel your emotional bank account is with your list. For me, it's largely a feeling. I've had this list for so long. I've been doing this for so long. I kind of just know, you know what? I don't think my list likes me as much as normal right now. Like, I can literally feel that. I know when I'm like, yeah, my shit hasn't been as good lately, or it's not quite at the level it has been in the past, or whatever. All right, let's step it up. Let's write more stories. Let's do more just like talking. Let's do more conversation and less selling. And then when I feel like there's a high level of trust or a great relationship, maybe then I'm going to start to promo something harder. But essentially, I know that when there are moments when I feel like I've been making lots of withdrawals from my account, or from the emotional bank account on my list, I'm going to actively make deposits. So that might be sending an email. I have an email that I send every few months, maybe. I might send it tomorrow. That's like, a bunch of free shit. And it's a link, it's an email where I have links to like 20 different YouTube videos I've done. Where I'm like, hey, I've been selling a lot. I wanted to give you guys some free stuff. Here's a link to a bunch of my best YouTube videos that you can go watch right now. Right. And that's a deposit by giving them access to a bunch of free stuff. Or I also try to, even when I'm selling, like if you guys saw the email yesterday from I screwed up, right? I had not put the times of these calls on the sales page, which I kind of knew, but I kind of was like, it's not a big deal. And then I was like, I should put that on there because every fucking question people ask me. And it's one of the best ways to figure out if your list is confused or not. Just write an email that says questions. You have any questions about this thing? Every question was, what time are the calls? What time are the calls? What time are the calls? So guess what? I put the time of the calls into the bloody sales page like I should have done originally. But what I did with that email was I didn't just make it, hey, I screwed up, now go click this link. I also attached a lesson. One of the biggest things you can do in sales is understand that you're one question away from people buying. So now even people who read that, who are like, oh, I don't want to buy this thing, this guy's a douche, whatever. And then they go, well, that was a good lesson. Maybe I'll read more of this guy's shit. Right. So I try to attach some sort of a lesson in a lot of things. And yeah, so Thomas, I tell you what, do not assume that people read anything you fucking write. The amount of times I will say that all calls will be recorded and sent out. It doesn't matter. I could write it in all caps. I could write an email that the only thing that email said was the calls will be recorded and sent out to you. And somebody would reply to that and go, will they be recorded? Understand that the middle of the road, the average IQ is 100. That means that 49% of humans fall below 100. If you're on this call, you're likely probably not quite average. You're probably a little bit above, maybe. I don't know you personally, but you're probably smarter than most people. And then the problem is, if you're smart, is you hang out with other people who are more intelligent than the normal person. And so you develop this idea that people are smarter than they are. They're not. They're very dumb. I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean, it's being dumb can be a superpower. You don't overthink anything. People like you probably couldn't do that. And they're like, I'm not smart enough to even question myself. And then they go and succeed. And then smart people sit back and they're pissed off. Like, why is this idiot richer than me? Well, because that idiot's not overthinking stuff. That's why they're richer than you.
Hey, Ian.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
What's up, Bill?
One thing that ties into the emotional bank account that I'm going to do, but it also does a couple other things, I think. So that's what I get your thought on it is, okay, you sell an offer, so I've got a week to promote that offer. Then follow up the next week with more of a consumption sequence, to get them using the offer, which does a couple of things. One, that can help build that emotional bank account. It also kind of gives me a natural deadline that the product might be available for 100 years, but if you want to get this, starting Monday, we're going to be doing this.
Right.
That it gives me that extra. Plus, I can send those consumption emails to everybody with that PS of, and if you didn't get it, there's still time to get it and plug in.
Yeah,
So
I haven't done that before in that way, but that makes sense where basically, so a consumption sequence, for those of you who don't know what that is basically an email sequence that you create in order to make sure that people actually consume your product. So most people sell a thing and then they don't email them anything. They just go, here's your thing. Good fucking luck. Instead of, here's your thing. Let me actually make sure you consume this thing. So like with the follow along, which I don't know how many of you here are in the follow along, but it's probably most of you because most people bought the follow along. There's a natural consumption that's going to occur because it's live. But once it's recorded and it's sold in the future, it'll be sent out daily, not once at the beginning of the week where I say, hey, here's 6 hours of content. Good luck. Instead, I'll say, here's 2 hours of content. Watch this today. Tomorrow, here's an hour of content. Watch this today. Then each day, I'll guide them through it. And this is the thing is so many people focus on, I think this is worth just quickly expanding on, is that so many people are worried about the people on their list that are not opening. 70 to 80% of your people on your list won't open each email. They may open different ones. They may open at different times. Some people, 5 or 10%, might open every single email you send. But People focus so much on the people. They're like, oh, well, these people aren't opening. What should I do with them? Focus on the people who are opening and who are clicking, and create more content for the people who are interested and who are clicking. You're better off treating 200 people who bought your product. You know, my first ever, when I actually, technically this email list started when I was 24, so 10 years ago. 200 people, I think, something like that, bought my 80/20 course. No, it can't have been that many. 50 to 100, whatever it was. And then I remember I had 200 people on my email list for that entire year, and I made $55,000 from those 200 people, which is an insane amount to make from such a small amount of people. But I treated those 200 people like they were the most important people in the world to me, because in a certain way they were. They were the ones, even though I still had a job at that time, they paid my salary on top of my salary. I made the same amount from them as I did from my main job. So if you have people that are buying stuff, to treat the people who bought better than the people who aren't buying is not an act of elitism or being a dick. It's saying, hey, you invested, I'm going to invest you invested time and money into me, I'm going to invest this back into you. Because what people really have a hard time understanding is somebody who bought one thing may never buy again, or they may buy 50 fucking things. But if they don't consume your first product, they probably won't buy anything ever again. So for me, like, that's been a huge differentiator in my business, is the courses that I have that are email delivered courses that are primarily delivered through email or email plus video. The people in those courses are worth 5 to 10 times more than the other courses, because those people become addicted to opening my emails. That first course I had was a 30-day email course where they got an email every day, and people emailed me when it ended. Hey, I miss you. I miss you being in my inbox, teaching me this stuff. I'm like addicted to your emails. So I don't often resend emails to people who didn't open, because it's not very good for deliverability. You're basically telling Google and Gmail, hey, these people didn't open, so I'm going to send them again. It's kind of like harassing a chick who isn't texting you back, and you're like, oh, she didn't text me back? I'm going to send 6 texts with no response. And then your texts are all blue and you look like a creep, and it's not a good look. So sometimes resending to non-opens can be valuable. You can make a lot of money doing that, but ultimately it affects your reputation, your email reputation over time. So I would say I don't do it. I should do it probably more than I do, because I don't do it at all. But you could do it once a week and probably be fine. But I would only do it with great emails. If you wrote an email that got a really good reaction or a lot of sales, then you resend to non-opens with a different subject line and do it that way. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that is most of the foundations and principles of this. Does that make sense to everybody? Are there any questions as to what we've covered so far? And then we'll get into examples and then demonstrations. Cool. I must have crushed it.